All right, here in the top left corner of the map on Akalon Waste, we have the Red Terran. He is from Team Evil Geniuses. It is aLive. Oh, right. I realize I'm also the observer, Andre. All right, here in the bottom right corner of the map, we have the blue Protoss player from Root Gaming, representing USA. It is Minigun. Yay.
This is not only the qualification match for the round of 8, but also the elimination match. One of these players will be going home. They're done with WCS Season 2, or at least WCS Season 2 America.
They'll well, no, they fall into Challenger League, and then they have to play it through Alpha Respawn Season 3. So they're not completely out of competition yet. Correct. They still have to play through. They can win one best of 3 and advance back into Premier League, or they can go into the group stages where they have another shot. So there's 2 chances left after this if you fall in the round of 16.
That being said, both these players have a lot of pressure on their backs. We are going to see a very fast scout coming out here from Minigun. This has been his go-to. Frodan, I know you've been playing a lot of different races recently, but how do you feel in particular with PvT early scouts? Because I personally don't do them a lot. I feel like...
Well, you and most Protosses.
Yeah.
They don't really probe scout anymore. I was talking about this with Sean a little bit, Andre. And when we kind of agreed that it's solely against just be safe against inevitable, really punishing cheeses. You know, people still do 11-11. And I was talking to Tasia and Revival, and I asked them, who do you think is going to win WCS Korea, Maru or Rain? It's TVP. And they both said Maru. And I said, why? And Tasia says, because Maru can 11-11. All right, well, I guess he'll just have to do that 4 times and beat Rain, the best Protoss player in the world.
Maru's cheeses are pretty vicious, though, I do want to say. He has some capacity, that's for sure. As it stands right now, both players going for a pretty conventional play. We've kind of expected this. Wow, a nice little counter, I feel like, to Minigun's very predictable opening. When you don't get, you know, a Zealot out, a Stalker out, a Mothership Core out super, super fast, you're going to get punished by this block. Now it's going to stop his expansion from coming up. That also means, yeah, I mean, he is going Stargate play, but when it comes down to it, he still wants to do that economic-focused type of play, and this is going to hinder him quite a bit.
For sure. It's definitely going to come into play, considering that it's going to delay the Nexus by at least like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. It's just another thing to knock off the confidence of Minigun. Meanwhile, we have aLive going for a factory. He's not going to add any more barracks. Just go straight up to tech. And we have seen, and he also has a reactor, we've seen some Terran players really like going for Marine Hellion pokes nowadays, just because, again, how greedy they are. We've seen run-bys with the Hellions, and it does pretty good damage. And you use the Reaper to even draw some units back into the main base. Yeah. And I don't think that's necessarily what aLive will end up doing, but it's just another option available to him.
Ooh!
Whoa! Excellent micro.
Reaper will go ahead and spot out the Stargate, and look at that, gets away. So Mr. Bitter is going to have one more thing to talk about for Reaper Expanse.
Reaper Expand is such a good build. Minigun scouts with the Mothership Core. What did he manage to see? Pretty much nothing, really, just because the Marines were pushing it away already. I like this. I like early Marines out into the middle of the map to try to push away Mothership Core scouting.
I feel like this is a complete hard counter to Minigun style. aLive clearly saw what Minigun was doing all this time, saying you were relying on your Mothership Core to scout out a lot of what I'm doing. I'm going to hide myself a lot better. Think about how bold that is. I mean, yes, he has the Reaper inside being annoying, which again is able to get out. But think he's able to say, well, I know you don't have enough units to really contest me on the middle of the map. This is normally a period where Stalkers reign supreme, but Marines all of a sudden are able to zone out that Mothership Core.
Now, Andre, what do you think about this? aLive is going to go for the early poke. And I was kind of alluding to this, where I feel like an early poke is going to be hard for Minigun to handle. Do you think it's going to be effective at all? Is it just, I mean, even if he just forces out the first Photon overcharge, and then has a medevac that can come in and go into the main base?
I think it's a little late. I mean, 7 minutes in, that's normally when Warp Gate is for sure out. That means you're up against at least 2 Stalkers and a single Mothership Core. But yeah, if he can actually, oh, beautiful. If he can bait this out, I was just going to say, to your point, that's amazing because it actually helps out quite a bit when that that 10-minute push comes in. He's going to be so much more effective, and here we go.
Oh, 5 Marines. Oh, there are 6 Marines.
Yes.
Minigun does show some restraint. Meanwhile, 2 Widow Mines going into the main base. Does Minigun have an observer? Yes, he does. Well, at least he will have it. He only has 2 Stalkers and a Sentry. It might be a little tricky for him to handle it, although Stalkers do outrange Widow Mine detonation range, so it's very nice for him.
2 Stalkers and a Sentry will be able to DPS a single Widow Mine down before it actually goes and blows anything up, but they need to get the jump on that Widow Mine. They can't react to the Widow Mine. That's the one problem. And I love this. Look at it. I mean, you mentioned in the beginning the Reaper being such an annoying thing, drawing out units potentially, and then giving a little bit away for that medevac drop to come in here. Of course, it didn't work out. Minigun reacted to that really, really nicely, but as you said, Frodan, I mean, that Reaper is being so effective.
And he's going to continue to keep it alive. Wow, 9.5 minutes. This game, it's a really long time to be alive. Or we could insert some jokes about players we both know, Andre. aLive is going to burrow these Widow Mines, but his Minigun wasn't paying attention. And it will take out one of the Stalkers as well as a couple of the probes mining. This is excellent, and again, it's going to be stalling for its valuable time for aLive because Minigun, he's trying to get himself set up, but he hasn't had the opportunity to.
There might have been an opportunity for Minigun to actually start chrono boosting out Phoenixes a lot beforehand, realizing, okay, my opponent really isn't committing to any real big attack, but he hasn't been able to get in and see exactly what his opponent is doing. If he saw the 3rd command sword, he would have been, okay, I'm getting Phoenixes, I'm going to defend against these, no problem. Even if you drop, I'm going to pick them up immediately, because I have a whole 3 seconds to go ahead and defend against this. You know, how do you feel like Minigun is feeling? I mean, obviously he took a lot of damage from those two mines, but do you really think like he's super far behind or anything like that?
I do feel like Minigun is struggling a lot. He hasn't been able to establish any semblance of rhythm. By now, 11 to 12 minutes. Ooh, nice potential pickup on this medevac. Oh man, doesn't want to actually go over the Widow Mines in order to do that. Still has to be very cautious because I mean, this is enough. 2 of them can pick off 1 Phoenix pretty easily, but this is a nice win in Minigun's book. Normally by now, Andre, doesn't he want to get the 3rd base? He wants to start thinking about getting his forges and whatnot. Ah, excellent pickups as well. You can pick them up before they detonate.
And also picking them up unburrows them, so they have to reburrow.
I like this.
I agree. Wow. Here we go. Starting to mobilize. aLive is on the field. He doesn't have a lot of medevacs, though. I think a total of 1 is in that army. Yes, that's correct. So not going to really offer that much offensive capabilities. I mean, those sentries along with the Colossus, with the thermal lance that's already upgraded, it's basically nothing that his opponent can do. And aLive is just going to wait for additional 2 medevacs. Oh, nice Phoenixes! Rushing on in, trying to pick off that 1 medevac, but he will keep it alive.
Yeah, just adding a little damage here and there, just trying to push away aLive and punish him for retreating. It was almost the same scenario as we saw DeMuslim versus Minigun, where it was attacking the rocks and DeMuslim was trying to pick an angle in which maybe he can get a nice little swap. But the most important thing is this 3rd base has been delayed for a long time. It's almost 13 minutes into this game. 3rd base going down, that's too long, Andre.
Oh, loses a Phoenix, really unfortunate. You know, it's kind of interesting because as PvT has evolved, it kind of seesawed with the 3rd base expansion. A lot of people thought like, oh, there's no way you can get your expansion up at 12 to 13 minutes in anything but like 12 to 13 minutes in PvT just because of how powerful the medevac boost is. And then it kind of regressed back to, well, no, we can get it still at 11 minutes. So that's the new standard normal timing, but we've seen as fast as, you know, 6 minutes, 7 minutes where people get the 3rd base and actually defend. Which is really crazy. We just had that with Ryung yesterday, where Ryung tried to do a little bit of pressure against Oz, and it fell flat. Really crazy stuff. I love the matchup PvT. I think it's become really, really beautiful, just with the addition of the Mothership Core, Photon Overcharge, and different medevac boost capabilities.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a nice answer to the medevac capabilities of Terran players. At the same time, it does keep Terran, it keeps Protoss players a little too safe sometimes. And this is, of course, purely my opinion, but the Photon Overcharge is just so ridiculously powerful early on. It just kind of feels similar to the Queen change, right? Where the Queen got extra range, and it just felt like you can never push into it as a Terran player. Almost the same exact scenario. And Minigun is trying to exploit that to the max by being extremely minimalistic in his defenses, and as a result masses up an army composition that is so powerful, but normally would be impossible to do if this was Wings of Liberty, right?
That's true. 9 Phoenixes are on the map against 12 Vikings, so definitely a lot of hit points that those Vikings have to go through before they get to the Colossus. Still, I mean, the Colossus can be targeted down immediately, and that's something that we haven't really seen, but multi-pronged aggression coming in here right now into the natural base. A couple of Marines. Probes will be pulled, but all the units are still staying over at the third base to defend. Really nicely done, just dodging everything at the natural base, going all the way into the main base. And there will be a warp in all the way at the main to defend against that single drop. Meanwhile, both players are just going to have a little fancy footwork.
Yeah, nothing really. I mean, aLive doesn't really have to commit here. He doesn't have the composition he needs, nor does he have really anything distinctly powerful enough to just instantly pick off things. I mean, he does have the 13 Vikings, but he only has 2 medevacs, and we've seen what low medevac count can do to a Terran army, especially if you get one bad stim and you have to stim again.
Oh yeah.
And with this many Colossus, you can it's gonna be lights out.
As it stands right now, there is a High Templar switch, and this is something that we saw in the Tasia game, but he pushed out before High Templars were really out in the field and able to storm out things. I really hope that Minigun just waits for that, but as you can see, aLive is already ahead of schedule. He has 2 ghosts popping out already. So on the field, total of 5 ghosts out on the field. He's ready and willing to engage. It's just going to be a really, really tough engagement, I think, for both these players. The one thing that I should say is if you get an EMP on those Phoenixes, it is brutal. I mean, you're able to tear through those so much faster with the Vikings, with the Marines. It makes it incredibly hard to do anything. And your army strength, your army value gets terrible.
Well, now we've entered that point in the game where, I mean, both players don't want to lose too much on either side. And an overwhelming fight for either player can just result in a win that convincingly. aLive now has the ghosts he wants. Can he get the EMPs that he needs to land? And he does manage to EMP a huge chunk of the ground army. The Vikings are focus firing. The Colossus not going to be distracted by the Phoenixes, because if he wins that fight, he will be able to completely annihilate it. GG.